my knowledge, whoops.
That was just me.
All right. I made sure that most all the case notes are up to date now, and I got on their ass. I told them, I don't care if a client comes and sits down and sneezes and gets up and leaves, you case note it.
That's exactly right.
So I'm working on it.
All right, cool.
My whole team is new to this housing thing, even me. I mean, I'm not as new, but actually doing it, I am.
All right, we'll get through it together.
Yep.
Just making sure everybody can hear. That's great. Let's
What?
Everyone put your name and organization in the chat so for attendance, please.
Can I do the chat on the phone app? I don't even know if I can do that.
I'll put you in.
Okay, thank you. Anyway, she's okay. She's not Christina right now, but we're expecting a full recovery over time.
Cool. Awesome.
Cool. All right. Well, I'm going into the office if you don't need me here.
Go do your thing. Like I said, we're recording, so we'll.
Yeah, send me the recording.
We will do it. It'll
Cool.
be a couple of days before we get it out because we're already backlogged, but we'll get it there.
All right. I just saw Ginger log in, so she's there.
Yep. Ginger's here and Nikki.
Okay, cool.
There goes Neil. Quit talking about him. He's here now. Hey, Nishada.
I got you.
Yes, I will put Miss Terry in. You'll everyone put your name and organization in the chat box. Yeah. We're gonna give everybody a few minutes because we had lots of folks who wanted to be here, but don't know if they're still making their way here in person or if they're gonna join us by Zoom. So we'll give them a few more minutes. I'm gonna go ahead and mute for just a few minutes. We'll give everybody 3 more minutes and then we'll go ahead and get started. We got lots and lots of stuff to cover today. Hopefully we actually have some real good conversation, some frank discussion as to where we are and where we need to go. And maybe start drawing a roadmap on how to get there. everybody take 2 minutes, refresh your drink or make your pit stop or whatever. We'll get started in 2 minutes. No matter who's here, we're gonna get started with what we got and make the play. All right, let's get moving. We got 105, so we'll start getting going here. I apologize for being fidgety here. I'm trying to make it. We were thinking that folks were going to come in and everybody would be able to see everybody. But anyway, so a couple of things. If you looked at the agenda that we wanted to go over, was the first was being the point in time count for this year. So let me get that up on my screen real quick, and then I'll share those stats with you. Okay, hopefully everybody can see my spreadsheet here. These are the final numbers as they were turned in to HUD last month for our point in time count for 2021. Remember earlier this year, we made the decision, we meaning this Continuum of Care Board. Actually, no, it was late last year in 2020, the Continuum of Care decided to take advantage of the waiver from HUD to move the point in time count just a little bit so that we would have a chance to get over that post holiday surge we were expecting of COVID-19. Post Thanksgiving, Christmas, and New Year's, we expected numbers to go up, and they did. So planning a point in time count the last 10 days of January was a little bit uncomfortable. So we went ahead and moved it to the mid of February to allow for a couple of extra weeks of surge to go down, for infection rates to go down, for vaccination rates to go up. But also that way when we did our trainings and those kinds of things, and we were just a little bit more cautious this year. So that being said, our 2021 numbers are official, and really happy to, as you can see here, we had a 4.8% decrease in homelessness from the same time last year, or the point in time count last year. Overall 22% decrease since 2016. And you can see the other numbers as far as males and females. Children continue to be going down. They were going up. If you notice, there was a trend from 16 to 2019 of ticking up of numbers of children who were experiencing homelessness. That's about the time that we started having some discussions with partners about program alignment and program eligibilities, how we realign programs to meet the needs of the community we served, and how those changing needs require us to review those things on an ongoing basis. That's part of the conversation we're going to have later on. The unsheltered and sheltered count, as many of you remember, the point in time count was done on February the 16th and 17th this year. Those were the 2 coldest days of the year here in our area. Thus, we had warming shelters available. So that made our unsheltered and sheltered count anomalous numbers. We know that these are not absolutely accurate numbers if it had been a normal day. So these are an anomaly that we'll never be able to really know how many people were unsheltered on the day before the night of the point in time count, because we're not allowed to ask those questions. It's simply where we're on you on the night of the count. So those being a little anomalous, and we were able to explain those because we did have the freeze warnings, our temperatures were low, and we had emergency shelters, or I'm sorry, warming shelters available on those. So the sheltered male and female breakdown, the unsheltered male and female breakdown, then just a nice little graph that, you know, the board members like to see the pretty colors and the graphs. Then we also do a breakdown of how many veterans we encounter during point in time count. And we have seen a consistent, we've seen blips up and down a little bit here and there, but we have seen a significant drop from our high in 2015 of 37. This number of 7 that's on that we encountered on a point in time count is almost exactly what we had on our by name list for any given month since last January. We started monitoring on a daily basis not only the number of people on the or our households on the by name list, how many of those households have children, how many of them are individuals, how many of them are veterans. So these numbers, and on any given day, it fluctuates between 6 and 9 veterans experiencing homelessness. So those numbers are pretty accurate, pretty consistent with that. So any questions as before we go on to some other information about the point in time count and looking at where are people? One of the questions we had a couple weeks ago from some other providers are that they've seen a shift in where people are. The almost, I think the exact words were, Terry, that the 2nd Avenue corridor is almost a ghost town. And on the one hand, it's like, well, we are supposed to be ending homelessness. So if there are less people on the streets, I mean, we would hope that means that there are less people who are homeless. So if we look at our point in time count, and I'm going to go back to, actually, I'm going to pull up the map from point in time count. So give me just a second. I should have had this up for you before I did this. The app we use lets us pinpoint where people are according to where we did the survey. So if it was done at one of your shelters, then of course that's the location that's going to show up. If it was done, you know, along the Riverwalk, you know, right there at the intersection of J.R. Allen and 2nd Avenue, that's where that dot is going to show up on the map. And I apologize, I should have this pulled up. So let me go here and share this map with you really quickly. All right, let me go ahead and hit share here. And there we go. Here we go. All right, so everybody can see this map here, I suppose. If you can't, someone say no. But this, if you'll notice, this is indicating in this location, there were 9 surveys taken. This is River Road. This is one of those warming shelters I was just talking about. The Verge Church, way up River Road, almost to Green Island area, actually past the Green Island area. Yeah, has has a warming shelter that they open when the temperatures are 28 degrees or lower in our community. So those 9 surveys were taken there. These 47 here, that's right there, those are the folks who were at Grace House on that particular day. Now you see out here, this is one person, and because not everybody here, I'm aware of whether or not they have a confidentiality agreement, I'm not going to click and open the survey. I could actually open the survey and it would tell me exactly who that person was, who did the survey, and the answers to all those questions. But looking at this is what we wanted to do, or what I was asked to share with everyone, so that we could see, where are the people? Well, if we can look, everybody is still pretty densely populated in center city, uptown, midtown kind of area. This 2 here, and I'm going to try and, I didn't want to go that far out. Hold on. I get it to where, okay. This right here, this number 2, that is the furthest south, because one of the questions were, are people moving to South Columbus? Our outreach team has encountered a onesie or a twosie encampment here or there on occasion, but not a large influx. So we wanted to take a look at what we could positively say at one particular day with, 40 people canvassing the area. What did we see? You can see here, you see an anomaly out here, out 280 in Phoenix City. So the furthest south we have individuals right here were 2 individuals who were in a non-congregate shelter on the night of the count. So looking at this data and looking at the surveys, again, that were done across the community on a particular day and night, focusing on where the people are, we can say for certain, there hasn't been a huge shift in where people are located. The numbers have gone down, they've just gone down, which pat on the back to everybody here and everybody that's come before us. That's what we were supposed to do. That was our goal. And that continues to be our goal, is to make those numbers go down. I would rather all of us be able to concentrate on prevention, job training, economic mobility, and those kinds of things going forward than having to focus on basic housing. Okay, this works hard and we can't do it forever. We don't want to do it forever. So to answer the questions, did we see a large shift in where people are? No, we didn't. We're not seeing some of the people because they got housed. We're seeing a shift in the services that we're providing as a community, and the services being asked of us because the needs of the community we're serving is changing. And so we have to look at ourselves. We have to look at our community. We have to talk to our funders. We have to participate in those community planning meetings and all that to have really honest, frank discussion. And I hope, and there's a couple people here, no, Kim, I'm not looking at you, that I know will be very frank and open about the barriers, the troubles, the experiences that we have, or that you have had, or your clients have had, and or good or bad in getting services, and how do we see things shifting. Really, excuse me. I mentioned a few minutes ago when we were looking at the point in time count information. And again, we'll post all of this to our website and email it to everybody if you're just late joining us. But we saw a shift in children, and an increase in number of children needing services, or families with children, I should say. So discussion with a provider, it was actually Salvation Army that started back in, oh gosh, 2017, 2018, to say, hey, we're starting to see an increase of need for families with children with not a whole heck of a lot of services available. Perhaps your single male model is something that you would be willing to shift and turn into a family-centered model, which of course we all know now that they did. It's been hugely successful and getting people from the street and into housing very quickly, filling the gaps in between, but also aligning them and connecting them with permanent housing, but also case management, income, and long-term life skills training and opportunities going forward. So that being said, one of the things we have to look at is, what do we have in our community? What do we have today? And then we can start having the discussion where what we have sufficient? Do we have too much, too little, or what are the other needs? And to be very frank, just because we have it, are we aligning our programs with the needs of the clients? Are we putting up barriers? We need to be honest with ourselves. Are we assisting the clients to be the most successful that they can be, or are we just checking the box so that we have another check on the list and we move on, only to have a recurrence because we did not hold on to that client potentially for long enough? So let me go back here to my folder and pull up this next little, okay. I'm going to share this, and I apologize. I'm going to make this a little bit bigger. Come on now. Come on. Okay. And let me go ahead and share this real quickly. Okay, again, as all of us know, our permanent housing
Come on,
program.
you two. Come on, Louis.
Charles, we can hear you calling the dogs. Our permanent housing programs, be them rapid rehousing or permanent supportive housing, require from the funders, ESG, HUD, whatever, that all those enrollments go through coordinated entry. Those be direct referrals from coordinated entry before the client is enrolled. There are a couple emergency shelter programs, and they're CD, that require, before the client can be enrolled, that they have a coordinated entry as well. So we have those, we will have those on here. Actually, I know it looks like Kathy took it off for me. No, yeah, it's here. But other than that, you're going to only see on the matrix here the housing programs, because that has to come through coordinated. Now, we have different tabs on there so that we can say, hey, if we're going to send you to a housing program, but in the meantime, here are some emergency solutions that might be available to you. But these are, recently, everyone was so nice to, well, almost everyone was so nice to update and review their coordinated entry matrix. And these are the things we make decisions, or Tammy and Kathy make decisions on to refer individuals to programs. And it's literally because of these drop downs here, they can say, what is it we're looking for? What are we looking for? We're looking for permanent housing. Or is the target population, maybe there's a filter here somewhere because something's not showing up. But who's the target population? Is it for literally homeless under other statutes? Is this a DV program? Is this a program that services those who have HIV or AIDS? So these questions and how they're answered then allow Kathy and Tammy to narrow down the long list of programs. And I would just have the numbers down here at the bottom. Yeah, as of right now, we have 5 permanent supportive housing programs in our community and 12 rapid rehousing programs. So looking at that, there's absolutely no reason whatsoever that we are not, by the end of this year, having 50% of the people on our by name list gone into permanent housing. No reason why. Because if we look back at where we were in 2018, there were 5 rapid rehousing programs and 4 permanent supportive housing programs. And we lost a permanent supportive housing program, which was Stewart Community Home, because there is no longer a requirement at Stewart to be homeless to access their services. We also lost Valley Rescue Mission as a shelter, obviously wouldn't be on here, but just an FYI. We lost a rapid rehousing program under Priority Veterans, because they are no longer in Georgia, or actually in Russell County even. They are not going any further south than Birmingham. And Volunteers of America hasn't been active, and has not returned any inquiries from the continuum of care in over a year as to whether they would be reactivating in our area. So that being said, we have enough programs. I think we can all agree that we have the programs, we have the funding to end the homelessness of those experiencing it in our community. So why isn't it happening? And those are the things I wanted to discuss, and I don't want to sit here and talk to myself, honestly. And I will bring up today's agenda, if I can find it. Nope, that's not the one. Well, looks like to you. But I didn't save a copy of it here. So on our agenda, we were going to talk about what are the challenges to long-term success for clients. Let me see if I can get one up really quickly here. So let's talk about it. Is it, is it access to those mainstream services, or, employment training, access to employment? Do we have enough connections, relationships with employers in the community? Employer training, vocational rehab. Let's have this discussion. Are your clients being able to access income through non-food stamps, non-unemployment, non-disability? Because to be very frank, the first answer isn't for every one of our clients to get them to fill out an SSI application. That should not be our first priority or our first thing when we talk about income. So come on, Neil. I know you have an opinion on this, Charles. Kim, somebody don't let me sit here and talk to myself.
Well, Pat, I just say that it's not that it's hard to find jobs, because everybody is hiring, everybody, and they're hiring any and everybody. It's to the point where jobs are needing people so bad. It's to the point where they're kind of like overlooking backgrounds, the fact that they don't have an ID. I just got a client that was homeless, 2 jobs, and she got 2 jobs in 1 week. So, and she didn't even have an ID actually to get the first job, but we were in the process of getting the ID. But the second job was able just to take the paper, copy of the ID or whatever. Right. But she was able to get it. But I'm just trying to find ways that we can kind of motivate the clients, because a lot of people are out of work now. And as it was said on TV, on the news, how a lot of people are out of work now because they're taking advantage of the unemployment. So, even the homeless population, we just got to find a way to kind of motivate them, because a lot of them are not motivated to work. And that's been the barrier that I have ran. I can't speak for everybody else, but that's been the barrier that I have run into with a lot of clients. They just don't have the motivation, because there have been times where I've had interviews set up, and then the next day when it's time for the interview, I can't find the client. So it's like, and it's been like that with a few of them. But and then I've had some that are motivated. So it's just, I think we just have to find a way to kind of motivate them to want to work.
Okay, so motivation is something that you've run into. So,
right.
All right, and I don't know the answer to how we help motivate, unless our I'm just going to throw something out there that was a part of a conversation we had with DCA the other day. When you do your individual service plan with the client, and the client says, okay, yes, these are the things that I want to do, or these are the things I need to do, and you set a date, then it's that accountability. And if you have a rights and responsibilities, again, this is a DCA conversation from the other day, but I don't see how it's not applicable to all of us. And let's have some conversation, because guess what? Every one of us is being held accountable for increasing those incomes of clients. So when is it that we hold the client responsible? And that's one of the things that that DCA was talking about, we have a set of rights and responsibilities with each of the clients, and you hold that client accountable for that, and let them know that if we continue to not live up to our rights and responsibilities, there may be some ramifications of your program enrollment. So just throwing that out there. I don't know if we're all ready to do that yet. I don't know to what degree we do that. However, I don't know about any of you, but I'm a little scary sometimes about being held responsible for someone else doing something when I have nothing. I can't hold them responsible for it, if that makes any sense. You know, we have to increase the income, but we can't do it without the client. So it becomes a part of the partnership. You said, yeah. Do you want to say something? I think somebody wrote something on. No, okay. So employment or employment readiness. Anyone have any relationships? And we'll stop sharing real quick so we can just, I'm not looking at your faces because no one wants to show their face today. Laura has a picture and Kim has a picture. Everybody else wants to be a name. But anyway, what are the relationships with employment readiness program, whether it be Goodwill or any other job training programs, resume building, whatever? What are the relationships? How do you have that one person at that agency that you call and boom, 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 stuff can happen? Do you not? How can we as a community say, Mr. Smith, we need your agency to help all of us. We have this pool of people with, you know, that need employment. You have this pool of employers out here who, how do we come together? Does anybody have that magic wand or that magic relationship with an employment training? I know we are, sometimes it makes to, it depends on who you talk to and what day it is. Sometimes we're pretty successful and sometimes we're not. Looking to improve, Matt. Any gems of knowledge or anything else that we can impart on each other? So Charles, I'm going to ask you directly. I know that you guys on some Fridays have an employment readiness or something.
We do. It's a job class, and excuse the road noise because I'm sitting in a parking lot right now, but
You're fine.
we have a job. It's basically a job readiness, employment readiness class that we have every Friday. We teach them how to do resumes, how to fill out applications, try to show them how to walk, how to talk, how to dress, just to boost some self-esteem, some boost, you know, just your self-worthiness, so that you're ready when you go to the employer to get a job.
Gotcha.
We are also starting to work with Goodwill a little more.
Okay.
We're also getting into with enrichment services a little bit. We haven't really gotten into it very much at this point, but you know, they have some job programs and job training available in certain areas, which could be helpful. So, I mean, it's out there. We just got to get in gear and get moving and get these folks, like the one lady said, they're motivated.
Right. And so I just wrote down here ESP and Goodwill. So maybe one step in that direction is, you know, our next meeting or two. Let's engage these agencies to get and solidify or strengthen those partnerships. ESP works with us. We work with ESP. We talk each other back and forth. But at I don't think sometimes it's like we get stuck in that tunnel vision and we don't think about another partner doing something different. We think of ASP as energy assistance, rental assistance, utility assistance, those kinds of things.
Yeah.
Childcare. So, Head Start. So absolutely.
Yeah, that's what ESP is known for, is Head Start.
Right. And I'm guilty. Guilty is charged. So, and I think this is why we need to have these conversations, to hold each other accountable and just go, hey, did you think of this? Some of the best ideas come out of just that casual conversation, and that's where those aha moments come.
Pat.
Go ahead.
Oh,
Go ahead,
sorry.
Ginger.
Sorry, Charles. I was just going to say, as Ginger, I was going to agree with what Kim was saying. The lack of motivation has been what I've really been running into. And I think there's a misconception of some clients that I'm working with that they've been told that they can, if they get disability, maybe their kids can get a check as well. And so that they, in my eyes, have the ability to work. But again, it's just trying to get them motivated and not to just rest on their rears and that somebody else is going to take care of everything. I've like Charles was saying, I've sent a few people over to the Goodwill. That has been a good point of contact. They do some training and different things like that, as well as help with resumes. We also I've been helping some clients that come in to use our computers here at the Safe House. We kind of give them a little guidance with doing resumes and filling out applications, but it's just like Kim saying, it's the motivation of actually, we got to work. Everywhere's hiring right now. So yeah.
Well, and I'll share something on that, Ginger. And it's not just our clients. Unfortunately, I was in a situation where I was talking with somebody a couple weeks ago, highly educated person, doctoral. Lady has a PhD, and was complaining that she couldn't find a job. Couldn't understand. I said, may not be what you want, but everybody's hiring, going down the street. You can't go anywhere without now hiring, apply in here, apply in person, kind of thing. And it was, well, they're not going to pay me what I'm worth. Well, sometimes you take what you can take, you get what you get until you can do what you want to do. So, and that's sort of, I think, the message we may have to do collectively. And part of this being a continuum is having that one voice kind of thing. And we talk about the Goodwills and the ESPs and all this stuff. And the more I think about it, we as housing providers, I say we, starting with me, have not done a good job of letting the experts in their field do what they're expert at. And we've tried to do it all. We've tried to be the job search coordinator, the resume writer, the PC skills trainer, and everything else. So at times we have to take a step back. And Terry's sitting behind me going, because I'm constantly going, okay, we have to stop. We can't do everything for everybody all the time. We have to let the experts in their field. My air conditioner breaks down. I don't try to fix it. I call the air conditioner guy because that's what he does. So as housing providers, I think sometimes we have to take a step back and do that. And it's about building those partnerships. The same way too, that we want to hold our clients accountable because our funders hold us accountable. We also have to hold our partners accountable too. That means all of us holding each other accountable. And those in the greater community to meet the needs. Go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was going to say I agree with you partly because no, we can't do it all ourselves. We can't. And for one, we don't have, when you have a caseload, you don't have the time to do it all for one person, because when you try to do it for one person, then the other person is lacking time for the things that they're needing. But however, I feel like, like for instance, I'm gonna use Pat for example. We should get the ball rolling.
Yep.
It should start with us. Get the ball rolling. Like for instance, with us, if I have a few clients and my coworkers as well, and team members, we have clients. We know they need a job. They may not know how to write a resume, or they might not know how to do an interview. then it should start with us practicing with them doing a mock interview. Or come on, let's sit down with Microsoft and let's show you how to do this right now to get you a job now, because you need a job now. But in the future, we're gonna hook you up with this person or this agency to show you how to do a more in-depth resume writing and go more in depth with your interview skills or whatever. I just feel like we, as a continuum of care, which umbrellas all of the agencies, I feel like we need to be on the same accord, say the same thing, do the same thing. We need to be real with these clients and hold them accountable. You said something in the beginning, which was true, how you said that SSI shouldn't be the first thing that we run to as far as a point of income. And with that being said, I'm saying this because we all know disability is the latest hustle on the street. It's the latest hustle, and we're just gonna keep it real. It's the latest hustle. And so we have clients that's like, well, I want to file disability. And I just keep it real with them. I tell them, I said, look, you got to have a paper trail of, I said, how long have you been going to the doctor? What is your diagnosis? How can you prove that it's keeping you from working? When was the last time you worked? So when I'm spitting questions at them like that, they can't answer them. I said, okay, so since you can't answer them like that for me, Social Security has already denied you. So let's find you a job in the meantime, because first of all, Social Security is a process. You have to eat. You have to live in the midst of that process. And it's just a myth. There is a myth that you can't work while filing Social Security. That's not true. So I tell them all the time, we need to find you work. And then while you're working, if something happens, or if your mental health gets in the way and your job says, oh, we don't know if you can do this, or your doctor says, I don't think you're fit to work, let them determine that. And then that way you'll have a paper trail. But right now, you're just saying you're disabled. You don't have a medical paper trail to follow you. You're going to get denied. So normally when you be real with them like that, they're like, oh, okay. And then it's like, okay, well, what do I need to do? So instead of just starting the paperwork just because they say, I want to file disability, it's like we're giving them a false hope. And we're wasting time. So it's like, if PAB tells them, no, I'm not filing SOAR on you because, you're really not disabled, we need to try to get you a job. Then if he comes to United Way don't need to file SOAR for him. United Way needs to kind of stick with the same thing PAB said, and I'm just using that as an example.
Yeah.
But we kind of need to say the same thing, because what they will do is hop from agency to agency to agency to get what they feel they're going to get. And
They
if
sure
we
do
don't
that.
stay on the same accord, if we stay on the same, if there's one link broken in the chain, they've gotten in and they're going to take over and do whatever they want. And all it does is take for one person to do that, and they're going to let
That's
the whole
right.
homeless community know, oh, all you got to do is say this and say this. And then, because normally if you say this and say this and go to Homeless Resource Network, they're going to do this, or PATH will do this. And then
Right.
everybody have a playbook. So we have to close the gap in between the agencies. And I feel like if each agency has a program, each agency needs to know the guidelines, or at least the basics of each program.
Absolutely.
Each agency's program, so we can be knowledgeable of each other. Because clients, they're not dumb. They know when we don't know, and that's
Exactly.
how they get in. So I just feel like we need to close the gap with communication and stay on the same accord. Because I feel like once we do that, we can build a stronger bond within the community, and then we can move forward and we can do more.
Right.
Okay, so Kim, you made several points here. So looking at knowing program eligibilities and requirements and everything else from a non-housing perspective, because obviously we have it on the housing side with the coordinated entry. So for services only kinds of projects, having the same kind of matrix, but separately. So we can, if Ginger knows that Pat's enrolled with PATH, she can, number one, okay, so these are the requirements. Oh, so they are probably, because one of the, and I'm throwing this out there, just making this up. PATH helps people to get their benefits started, whether it be food stamps, SSI, income of any kind, whatever. So Ginger sees that Pat's enrolled with PATH. So then Ginger says, okay, Pat, who's your case manager over at PATH? I don't know. Well, if only we had this system Oh, we do. It's called HMIS, where you can see who the case manager is for that client. And then you go, hey, so you know what? I'm going to get you to sign a release form so I can talk with your case manager so we can coordinate. So we're all doing something for you, but we're not all trying to do the same thing at the same time and running around in circles.
Our case notes are so
Amen.
important.
That release, I'm sorry, Pat, that release form, is something separate from what we already have in there? Or is that?
The release form, because, and I heard someone say case notes, and you're
Yeah.
exactly right. But however, at this moment, if the case note is not in coordinated, if this is a housing related information, if it's to help them to access housing, it can be case noted in coordinated entry and everybody can see it.
Okay.
But if it is not directly related to them accessing housing, it has to be case noted in your project's case notes, and those are visible only by your organization.
Okay, okay.
Okay, so that release of information is something that we have started as a standard, having clients to sign that we have the, not, because it's not the HMI sharing where we put it in the
Yeah.
database, people can look at it. This is, we have permission to talk to case managers in other programs that you're enrolled in about your enrollments so that we can coordinate your care.
Okay,
Right.
yes, we need that, definitely.
Okay,
All right, I'm gonna jump in on another note here.
please do.
Okay, so I'm hearing all this about disability and get a job and all that. And I'm like, okay, that's all well and good, but disability, number one, is not sustainable
Nope,
as far as living.
nope,
And a minimum wage job is nowhere near
nope.
sustainable. So we're all back to job training, job education, getting their motivation up. Part of the reason, I'm going back to the motivation, part of the reason they're not motivated is they're not educated. They don't have the background to be, they're like, why am I doing this? I don't have enough experience or whatever to get this job. And even if they do get a job, it's minimum wage, it's not going to sustain them.
Well, I think you're right. And I think that touches on what Kim was saying partly too. It was, let's do what we got to do now to get where we need to be long-term. So let's talk about that.
Yeah.
And let's talk about how do we partner with, again, training programs, but also employers who, because right now, I know when I've been over the past year having some work done on my house, every craftsman who has been in my house can't find enough help. They're willing to train people to do what they do. And you're coming on as a trainee or as an apprentice or whatever, and working your way up. So how do we as a community of providers, as a continuum, how do we tap into that? What does that look like? Does it mean involvement of education, like you said, Charles, from a Columbus Tech perspective, appliance repair, carpentry, auto mechanics, HVAC and all that. So start talking about it. Terry's going to walk up. I've got to go get some more water because my throat's about shot. I know Ginger was really happy when I'm losing my voice. But Terry's going to talk for a minute. I'll be right back.
Okay, so what if the next housing nav, we bring together somebody from Columbus Tech or the staffing places or Goodwill or somebody who could come in and talk to us about opportunities for partnering?
I would love to do that. Matter of fact, I'll talk to some folks at ESP.
Okay.
We actually started working with another agency. I mean, when I say started, we have just made a few phone calls. We may be able to make a phone call and have them show up. I won't say a name right now because I don't know that I can do it.
Okay, well, connect with me so that I can get with them. If they've got slides or anything, we can put it together in a presentation.
Yeah,
Yep.
there was a John had gotten a lady to come in from WorkSource, Georgia. She's an amazing resource. Her name is Ashley Becker. She's like a one-stop. She came in and did a presentation. You would not believe the stuff that she does. It's like a one source we can contact her. She does, we'll put put you, the client in touch of, John could really, here, come here, John. John just walked in. He had an emergency at the, John can explain a little bit more for everybody, but she's an excellent source. Go ahead.
Hi, Ashley Becker is the one-stop in-the-door coordinator for the Southwest region, and it's with the Department of Labor. DOL is currently closed until future notice, but what she can do is people can go online and register, and she can channel them into the different programs available at Columbus Tech and elsewhere, including enrichment services and the rest. She also works with Goodwill, but there's all these state programs available that clients can get enrolled in for returning to work and actually getting better jobs. And she's actually got stuff available for people to go to work.
Yeah, and I know that with the income level that our clients have, a lot of them can go on scholarships. They don't have to pay anything for this training.
That is correct.
Cool. Okay, what else you want to do?
Thank you. Thanks, John. You got it. All right.
Any other ideas? Okay, so I'll get with Charles and John and see about getting one or more people together to come to the next Housing NAV meeting and talk to us. I'll put something out well in advance to let you know who's going to be there and what we're going to discuss. And here's.
Sound good.
So did y'all fix everything?
Yeah. Saving the world. You know how that goes.
Yes. Saving the world.
Okay, so we looks like we've got some challenges, but we also have some possible solutions when it comes to employment and employment readiness. Kim, it makes me think about, well, we'll talk about this off. It's time for us as a continuum, I think, to host a job fair. Possibly, I know we've got some Goodwill ones coming up, so we may want to talk with Glenn and Denise over there. So, all right, putting that down. Let's talk about medical access for our clients. What's everyone doing? What's working? What's not working? And how can we help with that? Okay. So all of the clients go to Mercy Med?
Most of, yeah, if they don't have a green card,
Mhm.
we just start with Mercy Med.
Okay.
If they have the sliding scale.
Yeah. Mercy Med actually, welcome to the Safe House every Wednesday. Of course, with COVID, that stopped. We are looking, matter of fact, Dr. Joe and Dr. Scarborough have informed us that they'll be starting back shortly. We've been on. Go ahead.
I wonder if that can be something that we can help, number one, get word out on to all providers, also word to the clients. But also how do we as community providers help clients to access their benefits, be it Medicare, Medicaid, or as Terry said, the green card, which is the indigent care program through Columbus Regional, because, you know, every one of our medical providers goes above and beyond. Mercy Med, you know, was a godsend in you know, the vaccination, testing, going and monitoring those in isolation and everything else. So the past 15 months, you know, they have been a godsend to us. You know, Columbus Regional ends up with them in the emergency room when there's an emergent problem, or when the client doesn't, you know, take their meds or whatever. So how do we as providers help folks to get access to health insurance to pay the bills, be it at Mercy Med or Columbus Regional or wherever they go? And I'm asking the question, I know what the answer's supposed to be, but how do we do that? And it's okay to say we don't.
That's, yeah.
That's gonna take some thought. Yeah.
So that's okay. So we know, we don't know. So
Right.
now we go, where do we start? There's a couple of things. Like you said, Mercy Med, of course, has the sliding scale, but to be fair, if the client has insurance, then the client number one, has a choice, number one. Number
Right.
two, some of these providers who've been doing this stuff for free for us for a long time can start getting paid. I'm gonna be very frank.
Right.
So with the Georgia Gateway, you can start those applications for Medicare, Medicaid.
Okay.
Yeah.
Also with the indigent care program, if of course, if the most person is a Muskogee County resident, and there was actually supposed to be someone from Piedmont on today. Not sure why she's not here. Huh? Is it
Also-
you, Nikki? Yeah, that is Nikki. I was
Oh,
thinking
yeah.
Nikki was the other Nikki. Nikki, do you want to talk about the mobile unit and the indigent care program, if you will? You're muted.
It's not.
Yeah.
Charles scared her off.
Yeah, right.
I did.
I have a quick question while we're waiting on Nikki too. That I've noticed, that I know I'm sure you all have too. That's been a really big need lately, is that when our clients are getting to Mercy Med, which we're able to help a lot of them get there, now they're the churches and the center pharmacy that we had. I guess St. Anne's had a voucher program with them that would pay for medications, and they're no longer doing that. So I have clients coming in, I mean, a couple times a week. They're asking, where can I get my medication? I need my blood pressure, I need this, that, the other. And the churches, it's limited funds now, where we're trying to find places to send them to get their prescriptions filled. And of course, nowhere that I know of will fill mental health medications, which is the biggest need, obviously. So that's what I've been running into lately.
Okay, so speaking of that, you said a couple of things. So the meds and the churches, in
Yes.
fact, one of the groups contacted us some time ago. Actually, it was right after the first year, and said, hey, we're looking to do things a little bit differently than we've done in the past. Rather than, paying for a onesie and a twosie over here, and then the person goes to the next organization and they get a onesie and a twosie over here. About trying to coordinate our efforts through the providers who are all talking to each other. And I sort of asked for a list of things that, what do we need help with? Well, of course, once we get someone housed, the person needs stuff. A lot of times we need security deposits, utility deposits, and those kinds of things, because depending on what your funding source is, those may or may not be covered. You need incidentals that are not covered under food stamps. But also, those meds that you just talked about, that could be one of those things that we add to the list, and it could become a focus, because there's the ministerial whatever. They meet on a regular basis and talk about how they can affect change. And instead of everybody trying to do something separately, trying to combine it and have those concerted efforts and different areas of focus, maybe even for each church, but that the people would not be having to come to them individually. It could be tracked through HMIS and all those other things, because it would be a service. And it would be one of those things. And this is just how I could envision something like this happening. So Ginger brought it up when I'm going to use you as an example. You have Pat Frey as a client. Pat needs her, her that for her blood pressure.
Thorazine.
And it's gonna cost, $12.50. Well, that you have an arrangement with ABC Temple, and they said up to $150 a month, I'm gonna give you to pay meds. I don't care anything. All you have to do is send me the bill, or I'll have the pharmacy send me the bill. So you contact ABC Pharmacy and say, hey, yeah, go ahead and refill Pat's medicine on the account for ABC Temple, and they'll take care of it. You put it in the system as a service and all. At the end of the month, you can run that report, send it over to Temple, so they can take that, compare it to the bill that they got from the pharmacy. Boom, 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 matches, boom, bills paid, clients are taken care of. And that way it's also tracked. And it's also one of the ways, if you're dealing with the client, then you know what? It checks your box on their goals, that they're getting their medications filled on time and all those other things and those life skills. So it's a win-win for everybody.
Definitely a win-win. I like that for sure.
You unmuted, Charles. What'd you want to say?
Oh, none. I'm just wondering with all this, I mean, I'm all for getting the mental health meds. I am, believe me, because the mental health is a huge barrier. But how are we going to monitor how the clients are taking those meds once we get them to them?
Again, that's one of those things that we can do what we can do, and we can only do what we're experts at.
Okay, well, let me put it another way. Could we be creating a bigger problem by providing those kinds of meds?
Well, I think there's going to be a one-off on everything, but if we're going to make one of the things, the biggest problem is when someone decompensates from not being on the med.
Yeah, I get it. I get it. I mean, there's a
So
drawback.
I mean, it's a catch-22, and I understand what you're coming from, and it could be a liability in this, and I understand that, but I think we have to look at it from an overall perspective, you know, and maybe there are some safeguards put in place as to how or what the situation has to be for a person. But saying that, it makes me think about, for instance, you have Pat who's living on the street. She's living underneath the Metropolitan Bridge. She hasn't taken her antipsychotics for some period of time. So she acts out. She ends up in a fight. This, that, and the other. It becomes a medical thing, emergency room, probably then ends up in the jail. Or Pat has taken her medication and then maybe has a clearer head to be able to access services. And so I don't know. You know,
Isn't there a case manager involved in all of this? If we're going to go to the process of making a request for the meds through whatever system you described, there should be a case manager that's driving that. Isn't that the same person that's monitoring med?
well, finally someone said what I've been trying to get somebody to say. That's part of that weekly, bi-weekly, monthly, semi-monthly, or whatever, semi-bi whatever visit is. Yeah. So, all right, Pat, you got your scripts filled on December the 1st, and it was for 30 days, and you take 2 a day, so there's 60. And today's the 8th, and you got 4 left. We got a problem. So you either taking too many, you're selling them. Which one? And then that's when we have to involve, obviously, the doctor to let them know they're not taking the meds on, and how do we then do some other things. So you're exactly right, Neil. You won't have a request like that unless it's a case of, and you know what? That brings up a brilliant point for both of you, Charles and Neil, because think about it, Ginger, if we have XYZ church just filling or paying for someone's script, then think about it. There's nobody monitoring after that. So that's an excellent point, guys. But I don't think we do it well enough. Do we check it every time? Hey there, Open Door. Do we check it every time that we do an encounter with a client? Do we ask about it? Do we make sure that the client is making their appointments? We're talking about access or lack thereof of medical services for clients. And of course, a recording will be available. But making sure that those things are those are documented, but also making sure we're doing them consistently.
Well, I think I just wanted to follow up on that point, Pat. You know, if we're talking about housing, then somebody is probably working a rapid rehousing or some kind of a voucher. That's the case manager that's tracking the person because we're trying to get them into housing. If they're not in that mode, they're probably in a shelter where there is or can be case management there. So, I mean, I don't think it's here's your meds for a month and I'm going to see you every couple of weeks. I think if I'm actively working with somebody to voucher them into housing, I'm actively working with them. So I should be seeing the bottle regularly. I should have access to that. And that should be part of this is what you're supposed to do to be in this program that gets you into your housing. So I
Right.
don't
See,
think,
I'm sorry, Jab. That's what I was
because
just gonna
we
say,
should
that
be we're in regular contact with people that we're coming in at.
right. That's what I was gonna say. I know in the like when I have doing an intake with enrolling a client and we talk about mental health beds, if they are on that, then that's something that when I explain when I'm doing the case management and the monthly visits and things like that, that's something that I'll be, that's part of it, is to make sure that there's medication and their prescriptions are being filled and that we're taking them and things like that. So the clients I've had so far are pretty, knock on wood, I've been blessed to see if it printed, chap. I'm not sure if it did. I'm blessed to have I think it's over there. See if it came through. Sorry. That are pretty good about their medication so far.
All right, so if we can, we got a couple, 3, 4 more things that I had on this agenda that I thought might be hot topic items. So Neil, you kept talking about case management. So that's at the bottom here, but let's circle back on that for just a minute. What does case management look like across the continuum? Is it a consistent look? Are we doing things, and of course, there's going to be different nuances in whether different programs, different people within the same program, obviously. But are we all doing things pretty much the same in how we conduct our visits, interact with our clients, as far as how often we do it and those kinds of things? Just curious, is there a requirement and anybody can speak up, in your program that you meet it with a client monthly, weekly, bi-weekly? Does it change depending on what their living condition is or what? I don't know. Just curious to say, and what does that mean as far as, is it an in-person visit in the home or is it just a phone call?
Our procedure is at least one in-home monthly visit.
Okay. So that's once a person's housed. Is it different when the person is not housed?
Right. Contact is, we try to make as much contact as possible up until they're housed. Then it moves to once a month,
Okay.
twice a month if we can.
Okay.
Almost the same for us. This is Veronica with New Horizons.
Hey.
So our minimum is twice a month, but of course it depends on the need. So we do have one, like you have to do at least one because we do inspections as well.
Okay. And that's with all of your clients?
All of them, yes.
There's a couple people who've joined us since we started. So if you will just put in the chat, your name and organization, please. So we're hearing a minimum of one, sometimes twice a month, for case management, in-home inspections, at least once a month, it sounds like.
Right, but the minimum that they are spoken to is twice a month.
Okay, so minimum contact twice a month, once has to be in the home.
Right.
Cool, got it.
For right now, with COVID, but I'm sure that'll change soon.
Gotcha. Okay, so we're seeing some, I'm seeing some commonality. So it looks like everybody has a minimum of once a month in the house contact. So, and it's amazing the things that you learn, whether it be those medications, whether it be, if that diabetic is keeping to their dietary restrictions, thus keeping them out of the emergency room and the ICU with, diabetic ketoacidosis and everything else. It's amazing the things you see by just walking in the door or flipping on that switch and, is the light bulb out or did we not pay the bills this month? So everything you need to know from a client, probably you can get within 10 minutes of walking into that house. So really good. So having that consistency across the board, I think it is a key, but how long do we do it? I don't want to point anybody out, but I know I've had some conversations over the past several weeks with agency directors and all who have talked about that, you know, case management has been a struggle over the last short term. And I don't mean because of COVID. I mean, even prior to that, having that consistent case management has been a struggle. So what do we do as a community to let that, to help with those struggles? Is it that we need to reprioritize where some of our funding sources or our funding priorities are, whether it be, you know, from a consolidated plan with the city, you know, that they're undergoing now. They're writing the 5-year plan. Has anyone spoken up to say that, you know, we have a need for this, that, and the other? Not going to say what, because that's, I don't want to put any words in anybody's mouth. But case management is something that I've heard time and time and time again. So when we talk about case management, how long do we do it? Is that tied to your program enrollment? And I know the answer to that is yes, but does that mean that as soon as the client is, you know, exited from your program, first of all, how does the client get exited? Is there is it based on need, or is it just at the end of a period of time, there's an automatic exit? And then what does the aftercare look like? Shaking of heads, but nobody's saying anything.
Ginger and I just had a discussion about that today, as a matter of fact.
Okay, so you know what? Enlighten the rest of us on that conversation.
Okay. Well, I mean, the conversation was this. We made, as far as the voucher goes, we made the last rent and power utility payments this month.
Okay,
Right? The question was raised, so does the case management stop? And I informed Ginger that no, it does not. As long as we think that she needs some case management and she's not solidly on her feet, we need to continue making those visits at least once a month.
okay, so I have a question. How do you measure that?
Do what?
How do you measure that solidly on your feet? And I'm gonna ask the, I'm gonna ask the expert up here because I know she has a way to do it and I read it, but I'll mess it up. So I'm gonna let her stand up here. She's giving me the evil eye on measuring that. And not to say this is the way to do it, but
Okay.
this is a way that we found was a standardized way and that we could justify across the board, no matter who the person was, that we did it the same way every time.
I got you.
Yeah, when we're looking at case management, after we get to the 12-month mark on them, we look for 12 months of solid bill paying, with no interruptions in service. It could be, we try to look for something big like the power company or the water company, because that's something that they have to have. We're not so concerned with their Verizon bill, but are they paying their power bill? Are they paying the water bill? They're paying their portion of the rent. Every time, no interruption of service, no threats of eviction. And then we document that. And then Client Track has a self-sufficiency matrix. And if they score a 3 or more on the self-sufficiency matrix and have the 12 months of service, and the two of us agree that they feel comfortable enough working with the landlord, they don't need me to intervene for them, that they feel comfortable in making those payments and asking for what they need, then they've met that criteria, then we graduate them from case management.
Sounds like a plan. Can you send that over to me, please?
Sure, absolutely.
Well, what we'll do is I'm going to put it on the note as a self-sufficiency matrix.
Miss Terry,
Yeah.
Miss Case Manager Queen. Yeah, I have a question too with, as far as substance abuse and the case management part, because let's keep it real. A lot of our clients have some substance abuse issues, drinking and things like that. So I know when we do the monthly visits, like there's one client that I look in her fridge and stuff like that, just to make sure if we're foreseeing that becoming a problem, can we do things just like I mean, what can we do to kind of stop that before? Because I'm a recovering addict myself, and so I know my clients well enough, my ladies, that I can foresee a problem coming. You know, or catch a relapse, or if they have relapsed, can we implement other than just suggesting like a 12-step meeting, or what? Have you had that come? You know, have you had that happen, or what are some things that we can
With
do?
housing first and housing focused programs, you can't, substance abuse has nothing to do with whether they
Yeah.
graduate or anything.
Right.
That's through your program. So what, you have requirements in your program as long as
I
it's
just-
low barrier or no barrier. But ours,
Right.
sobriety is not even a thing in ours.
Okay, well, I just meant because I know that I mean, I know they don't really go to it in hand. I just meant when somebody's, you know, enrolled in something and you know, in a voucher program or whatever, then if they start drinking heavily or drugging, then they're not going to be able to, they're going to fail. You know what I mean? They're going to lose so that was my thing. I just didn't know if there's.
Well, that's when you get in there with the case management and you offer suggestions, you offer options to them,
Okay.
but you can't, I mean, people can be functioning alcoholics.
Right.
And maintain housing, maintain their job.
Right. That's true.
Mhm.
Okay. All right. Thank
But
you.
housing's the primary focus.
Right. Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
I have a small suggestion for, and I hope you guys can hear me, but for those who, the housing us. Anyway, one of the, from my experience, working with those who have substance abuse issues or the past or whatever, or people who need housing, is getting them involved in their social environment. So like getting them socially adequate and acquainted with people that are around them, people who are like them, people who, and when I say like them, I mean people who are also recovering, people who are also in certain programs and things like that, because it gives them a support system. So you have to create a support system for them. As an agency, as an agency, it's important, if you're going to help clients get on their feet, you're going to help people get on their feet, then you have to create some type of support system for them to sustain. And so if you're going to throw someone into a home, if you're going to throw someone into a home and then leave them there, that's setting them up for failure. But the continuum of care, the continue to be a case manager and things of that nature, I'm not going to say that it's a requirement, but one of the ideals is to make sure that that person has something to do daily. They have a schedule. They have something to report to you. So you have measurable goals, things of that nature that they can report back to you, like, hey, this is what I did today. This is what I did last week, blah, blah, blah. And that could be another way of making sure that they reach those goals that you guys set in the beginning of your ISP. And then moving forward, it's like, how did you reach this goal? How many group meetings did you go to and things of that nature. So yeah.
And that's all part of the self-sufficiency matrix too.
Thank you, Nishana. That's great. Thank you.
That is great.
So talking about some other things that I put on this agenda here. Obtaining the vital records. Is anybody having any difficulties in getting birth certificates, driver's license, social security cards, any of those other things, either from, being able to get them for lack of transportation out to the DMV, or, lack of funds to be able to get them, or the know-how to get one from out of state, or is that an issue anybody's running into, number one? Number two, and once you get them for a client, then what do you do? Do you just give the client the identification and all that stuff and walk away? Do you document it somehow? Do you document it as a service? Do you retain copies of it? How do you store those copies that you retain, and all those other questions.
Well, for us, is it the second Friday of every month here that we go to the DMV? Right. Yeah. The second here at the Safe House, we transport, I believe it's the second Friday. We'll take the van out to the Driver's License Bureau to take clients out. We do transport them out. And that's every month. We do that. And for me personally, so far, the Homeless Resource Network has been such a great ally as far as helping with that. So I haven't really run into too much of an issue. Just being able to email, Michelle, like if the client doesn't have them right there on them, they have copies of them. She'll email them right over to me. So far that hasn't really been an issue. And then, like I said, we help with, just transporting them out to the Driver's License Bureau, which has been very, very, very helpful for the clients.
When you get that copy from another agency, what do you do with it?
I put it in Client Track.
You
I just upload it into Client Track.
Yeah. So that if they leave you and come to me, I can just look in their client files. And
Right,
see.
right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Anytime I get any of their IDs, that always goes into Client Track.
Yeah. Well, that's excellent.
Well, absolutely, and her eyes got about this big. I thought, who's she gonna ask? Like, because that was sort of exactly where I was trying to lead this to, is because if you need it, I'm sure that there were other providers other service providers, whether it be housing or emergency shelter, educational, job training, whatever, that are going to need it. And inevitably, one of us are going to be asked, hey, do you have a copy of Pat Frey's stuff? Because I know she was a client of yours, because she said she was. And then we start doing this. Well, again, if it's uploaded to client files, again, it's a HIPAA compliant record retention program. Then that information can be, accessed instantly and may shorten the window tremendously for that client to get whatever service it is that they need, because we were able to get that. They don't have to go through the waiting period of getting whatever again. So the second Friday of every month. Okay, so question. So if that's the case, so that's once a month. Is that enough for our community? Do we need more? And Neil, you and I were talking about some strengths and weaknesses and things like that over the past couple of days, from a personal program perspective. Maybe that's something that we all need to, I think maybe we need to do as a community, is, do we have enough access for those who need to get out to the DMV? Obviously, because it does not, it's not on a bus route.
Right.
So is that enough? Is it something that we need to be able to do more than once a month?
I also do know
how to
I'm
get there?
sorry.
Go ahead.
I'm sorry, Pat. I'm sorry about that. I was just gonna say, I know that through New Horizons at Connections, the place to be, they transport clients out. I don't know how frequently. It might be more than once a month, but I do know that they do that as well. They take clients out to the Driver's License Bureau as well.
Okay.
And that's Connections through New Horizons.
Okay, so then I would assume that client would need to be a client of New Horizons to get that transport. I would assume.
I honestly don't believe it's just a client, that because the Connections is kind of like just the rec center. It's like
Okay.
and they just, I think it's really anybody that comes in that door over there. So it's
Okay, so
not just a
probably-
New Horizons client.
So I could probably contact Ada over there, I guess.
Yes,
right?
exactly. I was going to talk. I was going to tell you. Talk to Miss Ada. But as far as I know, I don't think they have to be New Horizons client. It's just anybody that needs to get out there, from what I understand.
Again,
Yeah.
so Ginger, this is really exciting, because that takes me back to what I was saying earlier. Instead of this one doing this and this one doing
Right.
this. So if we have 4 different agencies, so we've already highlighted 2, and I can think of 1 or 2 more that I know we're doing it, may still be doing it, not sure. So, hey, who is transporting people to the DMV on a regular basis for this? What is the requirement for someone to take place? So as a community, we can have a calendar. So I'm working with Terry, and Terry could say, you know what, Pat, you need your driver's license. And on this Friday at 10 o'clock, if you are at this spot, that agency will take you to the DMV, get all your stuff, bring you back. And that way we're not walking to the DMV, because I can see this happening. Well, I walk in, Ginger's over there with her client, and Kim's over there with her client. So now we have 3 different agencies who, and I'm gonna be very frank, we have taxpayer dollars paying for the transportation, all those other things, blah, 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 blah. Well, guess what? On that Friday, they could have gone with those other 2 clients, and everybody could have gone at the same time. So those are the kinds of things about community planning. These are the kinds of conversations. So it's not a, oh, I didn't realize you did that kind of thing. So back to what Kim said earlier, who does what and what's the eligibility and requirement? And when do they do it? And how do others get involved? Antoinette, you wanted to say something? Go ahead.
How you doing?
Hey.
So Changing Faces Within, we do help with birth certificates and IDs. And it's been pretty much for females. It's been pretty much kind of like on an as need base. Just like the PATH program have been contacting us because they needed birth certificates for housing. So I have been transporting, like say for instance, if Kim give me a call and say, hey, I have a client that needs a birth certificate. Just, I think, was it last Friday? I actually met her out there because she had her own vehicle. But the ones that don't have a vehicle, I just get with their schedule and then run them out there.
Okay.
So,
Okay. Perfect. Thank you there. And so we'll make sure that we're going to send out the survey to everybody. So if you'll put that on there, that way we'll have everybody's expectations, enrollment requirements, and all those other things. Yes. So meeting the needs of the clients yeah, of course. So we talked about transportation a bit when it came to the DMV and all, but also, just transportation in general. Does everybody have enough access to transportation vouchers with bus passes, the one trip, single use kind of things, funding for monthly bus passes for folks to get back and forth to work, clients having problems getting back and forth to work on those crazy hours? I don't know, what are we transportation poor?
That was, I actually had a question. I could probably actually ask Chap or somebody in my network, but I know that Chap, like, obviously he buys the one trip bus tickets that we keep here at the Safe House. We've been trying to just limit that to people like getting to a job, doctor's appointment or jobs or whatever, because they do try to get taken advantage of. But like one of the clients that we were working with here to get housing, he is actually staying, you guys have him up in a hotel, and he was coming because it was on Victory Drive. He was coming almost every day wanting 4 bus tickets. So I didn't know if that was something that, like, I ended up sending him to Homeless Resource Network to get the pass because, for the month or whatever. But I didn't know if that's something that, because we enrolled him in housing, that we're, working with him here, or John is, that we're supposed to continue to give him that many bus tickets every day, or how that should have been handled, because that's a lot.
Absolutely. Well, there's a varying answers to that, depending on what program the client is in. I'm saying he, but depending on what program the client is enrolled in, the client transportation may be included in that grant.
He's enrolled in MTW, moving to work.
So no, that client transportation would not be an allowable cost then.
Okay.
So so then that may be a thing where, how do we have the client contact? How do we make sure the client gets what they need and where they need it? So Homeless Resource Network obviously would be a good opportunity for that, because their transportation is not, but how do we fix this problem long term? So that's
right.
one of the things on your your individual service plan for that client. Long-term transportation, what does that look like? How do we help the client to purchase their own bus passes going forward? The monthly bus pass or whatever. So just part of that becomes part of the service plan. Yep.
Okay, gotcha. Thank you.
Pat, I have a question.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
On the transportation side of it, we know right now that Metro stops about 6 or 6:30 running. And so we was trying to toss around some ideas about how to help a client after those hours, because not all of our clients want a first shift job. Some of them prefer second and third shift. So do we have any community partners that we can bring in, any transportation community partners that we could bring in, like the taxi services or the share rides or anything like that? I know it'll be a new connection, but we might as well make those connections now.
Sure. I
That
can't
is
think of one off
definitely
the
a
top of my-
need. Yeah. Yeah, that is a very strong need. That's a problem. That's a very good point.
I don't know of any off the top of my head, Denise, but right, that is a very good point. How do we say, hey, listen, this is what we, this is the concern we have. And if we want to, we want to get the economy running and people back in the workforce, that doesn't happen between 9 and 5 all the time. So how do we make that happen for the clients? And I'm thinking about right here, the foundry behind us, starting this June 1st, they changed their summer hours. They start work at 4 o'clock in the morning. That's a really good paying job, but you gotta be able to get there. And if you're relying on a bus, you're not gonna get there. So, yes, so talking about those community partnerships for transportation, I don't know what that looks like. But yes, that's some of those things that we need to put on our community planning hat. And
Hey,
how-
Pat.
Yes, Miss King.
Now, we, with paths, and we don't have to use them as often because we pretty much take our clients where we need to go, where they need to go. But I don't know if anybody else have access to that or that's just like a DBHDD thing. But with the trips program, long as we schedule it 3 days prior to their appointment, they pick them up and they take them wherever it is they need to go. And as long as we put on there the different places they need to go, they can take them to several different places. Like, it's not just that they can just go to a doctor's appointment and that's it. So if they need to go to the grocery store afterwards or another appointment after that, we have to click all of that in the system. And then once we click that, the driver knows or the company knows that that's where the person has to go. So the driver will be prepared at that time. But I'm not sure, like I said, if
No,
everybody,
I've
every
never heard of
agency has
that.
access. Yeah, I don't, and I'll look into it about the information and see who has access to that information. I know DFAX does. They have access to it. Well, the Department of Human Services, they do, and I know we do. We did a training on it. But I'll look into it and see if it's available to the community or how can another agency, take part of that. But, like I said, we didn't have to use it much, but it's a good program though.
That's great. Yes, if you'll share that information with us, that would be
That would be some
greatly
wonderful
appreciated.
information. Yeah.
So barriers to program enrollment. What are some of the barriers that we're seeing to program enrollment? I have some of that come to my mind, but does anybody have a reason they would not enroll a client in their program? Terry is saying that some say income. Without income, they're not going to enroll a client. Any other reasons that someone would not enroll a client in a program?
As far as paths, if they don't meet the
Mine is
requirement,
only when they're not
Yeah.
considered.
if they tell me I've had clients that told me I don't have a mental health, I don't have a mental illness, so therefore I can't.
Okay, so Kim, you're saying if they don't meet the mental health requirement.
Right.
Gotcha.
And I was saying if they don't meet the truly homeless requirements, a lot of times people think they're homeless because they're couch surfing or they're homeless. You know what I mean? They're staying in a hotel. I'm homeless. That's been the biggest, So I got to leave. And we just had a client come in today. It was a couple. And so we're going to be put out on such and such. And unfortunately we'll come back on such and such because then you're truly homeless, and they don't, that's been the biggest barrier that I've run across.
Okay. And hopefully soon we'll be able to use prevention dollars and we would be able to stop it before they actually got put out, if that was really the case. So So not mental health or not meeting the program eligibility. What about past past convictions? And I throw that out there because it may not be your entire organization, but there are certain programs that will be able to serve those who have a felony and certain programs who won't. There will be certain programs that will be able to serve those who are sex offenders, and there are some that won't. So being upfront with each other and saying, yeah, I'll take that, but she's not going to qualify for this, this, or this, because the funder says no, 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 but she would qualify for this. Okay, so we're not talking organizationally, but across, for a housing program, just a quick reminder, you can't. In fact, we were looking at the income calculator. Terry and I were fascinated by the income calculator on the new updated HUD site. And when we tried to do a calculation to see if someone was eligible to be enrolled in a rapid rehousing program, they clearly said you do not verify the income before you do the enrollment. It's part of the enrollment. You maybe get into the enrollment and realize a client does not qualify, but you don't disqualify a client if they just say, well, I make $12 an hour and I live by myself. And you go, all right, cool, you don't. Guess what? There are maybe some unforeseen circumstances or some other things with that. We ran into that recently. $2 of that was a COVID relief stipend that the gentleman was getting that could not be counted as income. So we dismissed him as not meeting the qualifications or not meeting the income limits before we verified anything, only to have to go back, egg on the face big time, when we asked for the documentation. So always asking for the documentation. But you're doing that. So you're enrolling it on Word and saying, hey, once I get the documentation, you may not qualify. But on the HUD income calculator itself, you cannot turn that person away from enrolling before you actually get into it. You have to ask those questions and if you're verifying information before you do the enrollment, you're doing it backwards. I'm sorry, I'm gonna get on my soapbox there. You don't collect the information and then say, okay, now I'm going to enroll you. That client has got to be enrolled, and then you may have to verify and say did not meet income or eligibility requirements, and you discharge them. Somebody's going to say, well, that's going to show that we don't have a positive outcome, but that's reality. That's the world we live in.
It also builds data for changing policies.
That's exactly right. Good point, Terry. That also builds the data for changing policies. Okay, John, did you have a question or comment?
Yes, I do. I've had 4 returns from BASH. 2 of them were returns because their time in service was not long enough. The other 2 had sex offense charges. And Melvin's informed me it's like moving to work. If you have a sex offense charge, a methamphetamine charge, BASH can't help you. He did say
I have a question. I have a question, John. Are you doing referrals directly to VASH?
I had made a mistake and I was misunderstood it. So I'll own that one. But I talked to Melvin the other day because he was explaining it to me that some of these guys that went in like the, active duty for like training, and then when just reserves and National Guard, they don't have enough time to be eligible for VASH, whether or not they have a felony or not. But he also said it's the same thing with like the moving to work. If you got an SO charge or any methamphetamine charges, VASH excludes you. But he did say he'd be willing to help with other program referrals with our veterans that actually had that exclusion.
Right. And that's a program eligibility question, not a barrier. When we're talking about program setting up a barrier, meaning are you asking your client to be sober for 1 year? We had one program actually who on their application that the client filled out, they were required to give an affidavit, a notarized affidavit that they had been clean and or sober for a year before their application to be considered. That's a barrier to enrollment. You can't do that. But
being helped one time and.
Right.
failing?
Do we turn people away because we've helped them before, so we're never gonna help them again? That's a barrier to enrollment unless,
Not supported by HUD.
that's not I don't know why we would do such a thing. I mean, because it's part of the continuum is the ongoing support so that someone doesn't relapse back into homelessness.
Quick question on that, actually, because Ms. Terry and I had discussed the other day at the meeting, a client that she said would be eligible again. You guys had helped her before and would be eligible again for, I believe it was moving to work. The young lady that used to work for you, Terry, that we were discussing anyway. I didn't know if there was,
Okay. Well, so that, under that one, yes, she will be eligible to enroll in that program because that is a HUD moving to work program guideline.
So is there a time frame? What I'm saying is because I think she said.
Terry will have to stand up and tell you that because.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, in that client's case, her voucher was terminated.
Okay.
If a client gives up a voucher or is terminated, they have to wait 3 years before they can apply again.
Oh.
And for that client, her 3-year period will be up September 30th.
Okay. Okay. Perfect. I was just curious. I knew there was a time frame. I didn't know that's what it was for. Okay.
And that's
Perfect.
moving to works plans, not ours.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Thank you.
And she disappeared. Any other barriers? See, I remember, come sheepishly to Pat when I had a client who I had housed and it wasn't successful. He wasn't ready. He didn't spend one day in the house. He had a 6-month lease when it was up. He went back. He stayed in the streets. He never went to it. And then a year later, he came back to me wanting help. And I said, Pat, he's such a nice guy. He says he's ready. Can we do it now? How many times can I help him? She said, as many as it takes. And that's what HUD says. As many times as it takes to house him, that's what you do. Here she comes.
Sorry. I went to get water and they kidnapped me. So any other concerns and folks may or may not want to say it openly or whatever, but when we get a return back, and I'm just gonna be very frank, when we get an Appendix J, which is the rejection of a coordinated referral, it says client doesn't have income, doesn't qualify for program. It sort of gives us chills and the hair on the back of your neck stands up because, well, that's part of the job that we have. It's our job to house a client and to help them get the income. And so that's just what we do. Now we can say all along, well, it's hard and we don't have enough this and we don't have enough this. That's why we're having this conversation. What is it we need what we don't have to be able to meet the needs of those in our community? We're seeing more and more clients without income. We can discuss the reason for that, the political climate and all that other stuff any other time. But if that's the need that we see, we have, that's the demographic of the folks we're serving. And we're pulling some APR data to look and see how that has compared over the past 5 years. And we'll be sharing that probably in the next 3 weeks. That'll be interesting to see. So what do we need to do? It's obvious we need to change something. So what is it? Do we need more case management to help with those access to an incomes and employments? Do we need, does a workforce development type of project need to be on our radar as what our community needs? All of those things need to be openly discussed, and it's not going to happen today. Obviously in our short little time we have still together, but also this is something that we need to have as part of a continuing conversation. As I'm trying to review here, next steps, before I say what I think we've got here, which is a long list, who has a proposal of what we do next? Where do we go from here? Wow, Ginger's not saying nothing. All right, so couple of things. We're going to survey everybody in the community about who transports to the driver's license bureau, when, what are the qualifications and all. So how do we pool our resources or pool our clients so that there's not 10 of us going back and forth every month, every week? What do we do and how do we survey our programs who are not housing to see what their eligibility requirements are? What are the and it may be something that I get, I start with my wonderful friend Candace at 211. She could start providing me some of that information. But what are the other services that provide, say, job training and those kinds of things? What are the income eligibility requirements? How do we get them to coordinate, collaborate, and how do we all do a better job of doing that? How do we do a concerted effort to make sure that we're having consistent case management requirements and expectations for clients across the board, but also holding each other accountable in our respective areas? You know, be it, you know, having our partners at ESP and Goodwill, letting them be the experts in employment and in training and this, that, and the other, so we can be the experts in housing, and coming together and holding each other accountable for those. Talking about the release of information, for sharing of information across programs, so people can talk to each other. Yes, we have HMI, a sharing agreement. You can say, yes, the person's enrolled. But if I want to talk to Ginger, Ginger will probably talk to me, but to be safe and to have everything documented, having a release of information where the client has given permission to discuss him and or her and their family and their situation with other programs so that we can meet all of their needs. Kim's also going to get information on the TRIPS program, for all of us to see if anybody else qualifies. Charles had Terry wrote here, Charles has a connection with some tech providers and WorkSource. So we're talking about more employment there. Doing also making sure that our friends from our healthcare providers that we're helping clients to access healthcare, but we're also making sure that the clients access insurance, whether it be Medicare, Medicaid, indigent care program, so that the providers who have provided for us and for our clients for so many years can get reimbursed for doing the work that they do. So also talking about getting the churches involved in having maybe a community fund to help fund and pay for medications, and having that run through clients' case managers so that we can have a track record and it can be monitored on an ongoing basis. Other things as we are wrapping up our agenda today. So I see a couple of directors here. Did we get anywhere? Did we talk about any of the things that we've been thinking about at 3 o'clock in the morning when we're in the bed, wondering about where our program or organization is going next, or what are our next steps?
Several.
Okay. And nobody else wants to talk to us, so that's okay. Again,
My boss is better than your boss.
we have a recording of today. Don't knock that on there. We will get that out. It will not be today. Hope for sure it will be in our Friday newsletter. I'm hoping to get the recording out to all of you that participated before that. We'll put together the next steps. I will have to rewrite this because nobody could read that. And yeah, that's right, Judy.
I don't believe we get a newsletter. Do we get a newsletter? Is it any of, or can we get a newsletter?
I will make sure that you are on the distribution list.
Yeah, that'd be great. Thank you.
Can you put John on that distribution list as well?
I was just about to say, yeah. Okay.
Okay. I can do that.
And while I got the floor, I need to ask a quick question. It's something I've thought about a few times. The ministry has several different programs. Would one blanket information release cover all those programs, or do we have to have one for each individual program?
You can have an organizational program release. Yes, sir.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
I would suggest that's best for everyone. Because I don't think there's any one of us that has one program.
Okay.
Honestly, I'm looking to push us towards a community-wide release. Very similar to the HMIS release, and just a food for thought and just this little tidbit of information. The state of Georgia, their ESG, their HMIS user agreements that clients had to authorize sharing, they're gone bye-bye. It's an implied consent. You have to disenroll if you do not want your information shared. So we will be looking going that same direction. It's one of those things, just like on your phone, when they're saying, oh, if you agree to our terms, blah, 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 click yes, and you can't go any further, you have, it's going to be going to the point where if you're getting services from a funded provider, we're gonna have to be able to share your information. So just throwing that out there going forward. So looking at having a community-wide release and it's serving everything going forward, and then eventually going to an implied consent.
Sounds good.
Okay, as we wrap up, we have about 1 more minute before we end this recording. Anything else?
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
And I apologize, we had to move it today. We have a big United Way meeting that we had to work around, because we're having to work around everybody else's schedule. But I look forward to, I don't know that we will have, that we will wait till the next navigation meeting to follow up on some of this. In fact, we won't be able to. So over the next week or so, be looking for information to start coming out, because this is part of a process that's probably going to take us a minimum of 3 months, possibly to the end of the year, to really, if we want to do planning right and be realistic. We can throw some crap together and it'll stick on the wall for a little while. But if we want to do it right and we want to come up with a way to continue to monitor it and to continue to enhance it, it's going to take some time, and it's going to take all of us having some really frank, as we call them in my home, some strong emotional moments. But that's where the biggest growth comes from. And the person who's laughing on the screen the biggest has had, strong emotional moments. So, all right, guys, we're going to wrap it up. And if you have any questions or whatever, don't hesitate, and let's not wait for another month to talk to each other, to express our needs, our concerns, and just let's make sure that we put the client at the forefront of what we do. Thanks, guys. See ya.